Hi, I'm comedian and former amateur water polo player, Beth Barone. Welcome to Sext Ed. This is a show where I use my texts, emails, and Instagram polls to answer important questions. For example, bad dates. Are they an occupational hazard or is it just you?
Back in March of 2018, my naive little brain had an idea. Let's give dating apps another try. So I set up a profile, matched with a hot guy, and we went on a date. It was a nice little spot on the Lower East Side where they play old porn on the TVs. The date was pretty good, so we decided we'd do it again. He came to my apartment on a Friday night and immediately insulted the shorts I was wearing. He then said that his friends looked up my comedy and said it was all right. This is what's called negging. I have 3 brothers, so if I want to get made fun of, there's plenty of people in my life to do that. We went to bed, he continued to annoy me, and when we woke up the next day, I decided to pretend I didn't feel well and cancel our breakfast plans. This is a message to everyone watching this. Negging doesn't work. It's also not a personality, despite what you may have read in books or seen on TV. It's also a good reminder that bad dates happen to good people. But as Tyra Banks once said, I'm not a victim. I grow from it and I learn. I conducted a survey on my Instagram to get an answer to one simple question. What is the national mood on dating? True or false? I think the current dating climate is conducive to meeting a good romantic partner. An overwhelming number of respondents said that this statement was false, and anyone who's currently single will not be surprised by these results. We're living in a romantic dystopia, a wasteland where quality resources are scarce and only the strong survive. Just remember that every bad experience makes you stronger, more resilient, and more prepared to face whatever obstacle comes at you next. Eventually, all of these bad experiences will lead you to a good one. So just don't give up. Or do. It's totally understandable if you do. Next up, true or false. Dating is fun. It's a toss-up, folks, with a slight lead on false. I personally am filled with hope by all those people who said true. If you're in that demo, what's your secret? Let us know. Hell, write a book. A long book. Tell us everything. My homework assignment to you being any single people watching this, just keep expectations low. You can't fail. This is one of my favorite topics because just when I think I've heard it all, you girls come to me with new ways people have found to make dates bad. Today, I'm so lucky to be joined by Kate and Drew, who will be talking to us about some of their recent experiences. Kate, why don't you tell us about your first date after lockdown?
So it's with this guy, and we go to this bar, and we get on the topic of Wuthering Heights, which I've never read, but I'm a pretentious bitch who likes to pretend that I've read it.
I've also never read it.
He starts talking about how Kathy and Heathcliff are this great couple. And the only thing I know about the book is that they're terrible people and terrible together. And I was like, just because 2 people are terrible to each other doesn't mean they're a good couple. And he was like, I disagree. Take my mom and my stepdad, for example. I was like, oh, this is therapy. I didn't know that I was being paid for this session, but I love it. Okay. So he starts telling me about how his stepdad is running this con artist business where he sells sex dolls, because now they all pretend to be in these polyamorous relationships with these sex dolls to boost sales.
Wait, how is it a scam? Are they not delivering the dolls?
So they have this whole, they're pretending to be in these relationships. In the sex doll business, apparently that's like a big thing where like people are in real relationships to like destigmatize it, which I'm like, you know what? Get your oath somehow, but
we hate stigma.
Power to them. They're making a living. So all this happens and I'm like, you know what? This is a terrible date, whatever. We like go for a walk afterwards and I like mentioned that I'm an actor and I like did this like voiceover workshop a few weeks prior that I mentioned, and he was like, oh, I love cartoons. And I was like, great. That's amazing for you.
You went A to C.
And then he says, do you want to hear my anime impressions?
No.
And he starts doing them. So many of them. I think there was 10.
Were they supposed to be funny, or he wanted to show you the accuracy?
The accuracy.
Did you consent to hearing the impressions? That's what's also important.
I think he was like, do you want to hear my anime impressions? And I genuinely don't think I answered.
Asking was just a gesture. He didn't really care.
Therapy with men is so normal, but also like men just assuming that I'm interested in their interests without like any confirmation. Like, I don't know another species that would like jump into anime impressions if I say I've never seen it. Yeah, and then we made out at the end of the night. Cause like
You made out.
yeah, first date post quarantine. What else was I supposed to do?
Of course.
You had to legally, I think. If you hadn't done it, you would have been thrown in jail.
It wasn't even a good makeout. I don't think it was worth it.
Spoken sense.
I toyed with the idea of a second date, but I was rightfully talked out of that.
We've all been in a situation where we've had a really not great first date and said, well, surely the second one has to be better. But no, you come to find that it's actually many times worse.
I mean, I wish him well.
I wish him well too.
We wish his parents are well. And above all, we wish that the sex dolls are well. Now, Drew, you're coming to us with the story of a sixth date.
So I was seeing this guy for about 2 weeks, and then it got to the point where he invited me over to his new apartment on the Upper East Side. So I arrived at his apartment with some cookies. We started making out. I started to kiss him on his stomach, and he was like, "Please don't do that. I don't like that." And I was like, "Oh, okay." I was like, "Well, what do you like?" And he just looks at me and he's like, "I like doggy style and a clean butthole." Yeah, so was his response to me. So he said that to me. I was like, okay. And then we began to have sex. And as soon as we started to have sex, he truly left his body. I've never seen anything like it. He was off in another place, disassociating, just not with me in that room. I could have been like a hole in the wall that he was fucking. After we finished, we were laying next to each other, and he was fully grossed out by how much he enjoyed it, I'll say, and leapt up from the bed and immediately jumped in the shower. We found our way back to his bedroom. We were watching a movie, and I was standing up, and he just looks at me and he goes, "You know, I would love it if you got your ass really big. Like just did some squats and just like made your ass like really, really juicy." I was totally taken aback. I couldn't believe that he was giving me notes on my body after we had, had sex in which my ass was in the air. So I looked at him and I was like, wow, that's insane that you would say that. And he was like, what, was that rude? I was like, yeah, I mean, we just had sex and you're giving me a note on my body. And he lightly apologized. And then fast forward a little bit into the night, I grabbed the cookies that I had brought to the apartment, and we were eating them in his bed. And as I was eating one of the cookies, he looked at me and he said, I hope these cookies go straight to your ass. So I couldn't believe he said that to me after I expressed to him that his kind of hurt my feeling. But I will say it was 11:30 on the Upper East Side, so I did stay the night.
Well, the joke's on him because the cookies did go straight to your ass, and now your ass is fat and juicy, so...
Never heard from him again. This was 3 weeks ago.
So much was said by saying nothing.
I think we both knew.
The vibe was just off.
I feel like when you ask them what they like in bed and their response is a clean asshole and doggy, they're absolutely a serial killer. Because that sounds medical. They're about to do an exam.
I think you had sex with the guy who Dexter is based on.
You know what? I think you're right.
Well, thank you for sharing your stories. We do hope that the viewers at home have all learned something from this. I think my main takeaway whenever I talk and think and hear about bad dates is that if you go on a bad date, you are not required to kiss them. If you would repeat after me.
Yes.
If I go on a bad date.
If I go on a bad date.
I am not required to kiss them.
I am not required to kiss them.
And now for the folks at home. If I go on a bad date, I am not required to kiss them. Don't forget that. Kate and Drew, thank you so much for your bravery, your resilience, and your willingness to share. Although you both made different choices about how to proceed in the wake of your bad dates, I wish you both nothing but the best, and I hope that you find what you're looking for. Cheers, girls.
Cheers.
As I reflect on these insightful narratives, I couldn't stop thinking about sparkling clean buttholes and questionably accurate anime impressions. When did dating start to feel less like two people looking for love and more like one person being traumatized on a hidden camera show hosted by Ashton Kutcher? Despite everything we know, 58% of people are optimistic that they will meet the right person in the next 1 to 3 years. You know what that sounds like to me? Hope. And even rooted in delusion, it's still hope.